Kristen, and I'm going to teach you about hydroponics. Here is a system I designed and built, and basically it's a system for growing plants without soil, and everything is grown with water and nutrients. Today I'm going to teach you how to build this system. Okay, so here we have a sketch of the hydroponic system that I'm going to teach you to build today. But before we get started with this, I'm going to tell you a list of materials that you'll need to build this. So what you'll need is plastic 2-liter bottles, wood scraps, 3.5-inch net cups, some sort of heavy-duty glue. I like to use goop, clay balls, air hose needles, a 1/4-inch fish tank tubing, an aquarium air pump, a power drill so you can attach screwdriver bits and drill bits, nutrients, plant seeds, screws, nuts and bolts, and the tip of a squeezy bottle, which I'll show you a little bit later. Okay, so to get started, here we have the wooden structure that's holding up our system. And what I did was I put 2 screws right through there to attach our 2 pieces, and same here. And then to hold up our bottles, I put 2 bolts right through there, and on the back I attached nuts to hold them in place. And I like to use wing nuts so it's easy to take this system apart when I want to transport it. Same here, 2 bolts. Okay, so starting at the bottom, here we have a plastic bottle. And what I did was I chopped off the bottom of the bottle, I cut it off using scissors, and then I turned it upside down. Here we have the normal bottle cap. And what I did was I drilled a hole right in the bottom of the cap, and I glued the air hose needle in, and then I glued this fish tank tubing, which is attached to our air pump. And here is an example of the air hose needle attached to the tubing and the cap. And what happens inside your bottle is you have this, the black tubing sitting on top of your needle. But it's not sitting all the way down because you want enough room for water and nutrients to go up into the black tube. And so at the top here, this bottle, we took off the normal cap and we attached the tip of a squeezy bottle instead. So what I did here was, here's the squeezy bottle, and I took off this tip and attached it to the plastic bottle. And here is an actual example of the tip and the plastic bottle attached together. I just glued them together using the goop. And so, okay, starting back down at the beginning, we have our air pump providing our air. It's going up through the air hose needle, and water and air are going up through this tube. The air is acting as an airlift system, carrying the water droplets up to our plant. And here our plants are getting watered, and they are being contained by a net cup and clay balls. Here's an example of a net cup. This is a 3.5-inch net cup, and they are filled with clay balls. Okay, so the clay balls I like to use are called Hydroponic expanded clay. And it's actually interesting how those are made. The clay is heated up to very high temperatures, and the clay kind of pops like popcorn. And the result are these very lightweight balls. And they're actually great for hydroponics because they contain moisture a little bit, and the roots are easily able to wrap around them. Okay, so back to our drawing. Here we have our bottle with our net cup and our clay balls. And we have our roots wrapping around our clay balls. With our airlift system, we have the water dripping all the way down through the balls and the roots, and then dripping down through the tip and back into our holding tank. Our holding tank is where we add our water and our nutrients. We have to add nutrients because there's no soil in this system. So we need to have some nutrients for our plants so that they can grow. The nutrients I like to use are called Flora-Duo. I add a little bit of A and a little bit of B depending on the stage of growing. Okay, so back to our system, we have our water and our nutrients. That's what cycles around and feeds our plants. Okay, so that's about it for our drawing. Next, I will show you a little bit more of the system I actually built. Okay, so here's the system that I actually built. As you can see, there are 12 bottles, 8 on the top for plants and 4 on the bottom for holding tanks. So you can see right here, the water is dripping down into one of the holding tanks. That's where we add our nutrients. And in the bottom of the holding tank is where we have our air hose needle sticking up. Just imagine it right there, which is attached to our air hose, and it's getting air from our air pump right here. And so the air is flowing up through the air hose into the needle, and it's attached to our black tubing right here. And I actually held it in place with a paper clip. And the tubing is going all the way up and around to our first plant, and then down is dripping down into our second plant here. I actually added this extra tube just so that there's no splashing. You can see the clay balls. They're with our roots wrapped around, water's dripping through, back down into our holding tank. And so I actually painted these bottles black, and I used black tubing because I want to prevent the development of mold or fungus, and also some of the nutrients are light sensitive, so I want to prevent the breakdown of those nutrients. Also in the background here, you can see my wooden structure. Here I actually use zip ties. These are optional, but I use them to help hold these tubes in place so everything's neat and tidy. And I use the ones that have a screw, a spot for a screw to hold them to the wood. And if you look here, this is where the 2 pieces of wood are attached. There's the 2 screws on the other side. So now you've seen an example of a real hydroponic system. It's a great option for people who don't have a lot of space in their apartment or home, and it's a great way to grow plants and live healthy.